I know you hate them.
No, I do not hate them.
But
they serve a purpose, and everything has to be that piece of gear.
Yep.
It's a creme de la creme of everything. If you've got a terrible source, it doesn't matter if you've got the most expensive mic in the world.
And you spent $10,000 on that. And my virtual version, I spent $300.
We recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we are recording.
Are you sure? You're positive.
Yeah, it's hard to find good help these days. No. That was John, our producer, who forgot to turn the recorder on.
Oops.
Whoops. That's why he doesn't engineer here.
Yeah, we're doing a podcast about sound and studios and audio, and we forgot to turn the sound on.
Hey, welcome to Behind the Board podcast. And we're doing a continuation of the last one, which is basically artificial to real.
I'm Artie.
And I'm really.
How cheesy can this get?
Yeah, I know. So today we're going to talk about plugins versus real hardware and kind of our opinions on it, which are it's just what they are. They're just opinions.
They're just opinions.
And then we'll talk a little bit about even microphones, virtual microphones versus real ones, or what I guess they're sampling microphones or emulating, modeling microphones. Modeling, that's a word, modeling.
Yep.
It's still artificial, but it's modeling, okay?
Get your terminology right, pal.
Yeah. So you start. Let's start.
Well, listen, in my world, in the virtual world, everything is basically done in the box, meaning the computer. And I'm a universal audio guy. You know, I have the Apollo X6, and I use UAD plugins. Those are my plugins of choice. I do use some Waves, but mostly UAD. And I like the UAD stuff, especially in their preamps, because you can utilize the circuitry in their preamp section to come as close as you can possibly get, whether you're using universal or a Tektronix or an SSL or whatever you're using. It's coming as close as you can. Now, that being said, is it the real thing? No, it's as close as you're going to get. And it's perception, too. I mean, if I A-B'd two mastered pieces, one done with software and one done with the real stuff, if you listen to one by itself, you're going to say it sounds great. If you got away from it and then listen to the other one and say, man, that sounds great, too. In my opinion, if you A-B them, the hardware is going to win out. There's going to be nuances in there that you normally wouldn't perceive if you're just listening to it by itself. But if you're doing an A-B next to each other, in my opinion, you're going to be able to tell. And that hurts me. It hurts me to my core because I love the virtual world.
Well, we're kind of switching here because, in my opinion, because in-the-box plugins get me close enough to where I need to be, and I'm working with an artist. So let's just say I want to do a plugin on the master bus just to see what it would sound like, because I typically don't do anything on the channels. I don't even EQ. I mean, I want to grab it perfect with the microphone, the right preamps, and then I'll use the mastering bus to add in limiting and compression and let that be the chain that grabs the vocals, not the individual strip.
Right.
Because if you start building it that way, you're going to have an overcompressed, whatever. So I love the plugins because of convenience. Okay. I know what it takes to try to dial in a Shadow Hills. Right. And a lot of times I cheat and I will look at what's on the plugin, put it in there, and see. I've been kind of comparing them. There is a difference. Okay. I'm not negating that, right? But when you're trying to get a project out the door, and it's going to end up on an MP3 on Spotify.
Listening to AirPods.
Now, granted, I am very, 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 very keen on making sure that the front end is perfect.
Sure.
You know, your chain all the way through into Pro Tools is about as good as it's going to get.
Right.
Once it's in there, it's much more difficult. I think plugins, people overuse plugins because they don't do good front end.
Right.
They use the plugins to hide or to try to embellish what they did in the front end wrong.
Right.
and try to fix it.
Fix it in the mix.
Right. So to me, if you capture things well on the front end, your plugins, you're not going to hear that much of a difference because you've already captured it with the best possible scenario.
Right.
And we've been fortunate here at Bakehouse that we've got all the toys. We can play, but it's funny that you're talking about you're wanting this, and I'm going like I'm fine with that.
Yeah, but still, I mean, if I have to make an argument, I mean, I'm looking at the rack mount of the Shadow Hills down there, and you spent $10,000 on that, and my virtual version, I spent $300.
And they're down to $49, I think.
Well, the UAD version is still expensive. I think.
Is it?
Yeah, they're still pretty pricey, but yeah. So there's going to be a sonic difference from a $10,000 hardware.
Yeah, but not $9,600 difference.
True.
I mean, the projects don't even cost that much.
That's true.
It's kind of like, so why would you even like?
Yeah, how could you justify that?
How could you justify that? Well, and that's the whole thing. The only reason I justify anything like this is because I love to collect gear.
Yes, you do. Good Lord.
And I love to see what they do. And in some ways, I'm a purist at that end. But when it comes to actual practical signal flow, tracking, mixing, there's so many dynamics that are happening when you're working with live players that you just better have your act together. And those plugins, a CL1B, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Now, I will use a real CL1B. Coming off the mic, the lead vocals, and do a -1 compression on it. Probably a 3-to-1, 4-to-1, but just give it toward a meter. Just basically budgets to like a -1 and compresses or limits, however I want to do it. And then I know I've got a fairly safe track.
Right.
All right. I've got a friend who he has to have a limiter on all his drums because he does so many sessions that he cannot afford anything to peak out and break up.
Right.
We've been using a lot of APIs, and I just make sure my thresholds and my limits are right on. I don't know where I'm going with this, but anyway, we're
but no, you were bringing up a good point because you were talking about drums and what kind of limiters on it and blah 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 this and that. Well, I just got a new virtual kit from Tune Tracks for Superior Drummer 3.
Okay.
And there's the closest to. Like, what's the kit that you have in here?
Your Yamaha Recording Custom, the 20th anniversary edition.
Yeah, and it's a limited edition.
Yeah, there's like 100 of them made.
Yeah, and it's just a fantastic sounding drum kit.
It is an amazing sounding.
And I remember before I just got this kit hasn't been out for that long, the Tune Track stuff for Superior Drummer 3, and it was before I even got that kit that I asked Jim. I said, "What's your plug or what's your chain that you use on your drums?" And he gave me the list of what he's using on kick and snare, above snare, below snare, all this stuff. So I started kind of picking out my plugins because I have basically this. I have pretty much the same thing that he has here in his hardware rack that I do in my virtual racks, and then this kit came out, and I actually sent him a couple examples. They sound fantastic, but then when I started adding those plugins, and then I actually added the distressor, which you haven't got yet. I have it. He doesn't.
Yeah.
Yep. No, when I put the distressor on, it was like it just brought everything to life, and it's as close as I'm going to get from a virtual world to that kit in there as I'm possibly going to get. But just the fact that I can get in the same arena is important to me to be able to have that kind of kit. Because when we're working on projects together, if he's recording live drums and I'm doing an arrangement or something, I can have that kind of sound even before they record.
Yeah.
I can have that kind of sound when I'm starting my arrangements or orchestrations or whatever I'm doing. So that's the important part of the virtual
Well,
world.
I remember when you sent me just some MP3s of what you recorded before you put the plugins in. What I heard was a really well recorded drum, drums. And so I felt like I could recommend to you what I was putting on them because, again, if the drums recorded well, you should even have to put a plug-in on it.
Yeah.
If you know how to capture it, if you're looking for that particular sound, the tom, the attack, the release of the drum, you don't have to cover it up with plugins because the problem with, I think, in-the-box plugins, and I've seen this, is if you're not careful, you'll degrade the sonic space as you go down to the mastering bus because it's squeezing too much of the channels themselves.
Well, and I think one of the mistakes that a lot of virtual guys do is when you're putting a plug-in, be sure that you're always doing an A/B or an on-off. Mm-hmm. Listen to the drums with plug-in, without the plug-in, plug-in, plug-in. What sounds better? And if it doesn't really enhance it or it doesn't do anything, get rid of the plug-in. Don't use it. But if there's a sonic difference that really heightens the sonic quality of whether it's drums or guitar or whatever, vocals, by all means, get in there. But here, I'll get that.
That's our producer knocking over the...
Union break. No, what I was going to say is that's one of the big problems with a lot of younger composer, arrangers, orchestrators, whatever, is that they'll just throw a plug-in on there and they'll say, oh man, that sounds great. They don't do any tweaking or A/Bing to make sure that it, and like you said, by the time you get down to the mastering part or the output part of it, you've got so much garbage on there that now you've got all this pumping going on and you know where that's coming from, and and you just got a whole big mess.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many factors. I mean, that's why we're doing these blogs, because there's so many factors in the chain, and the biggest one's your monitors.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can do all the plugins you want, but if you can't hear the nuances of those plugins, what's the point?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I mean,
and monitors have gotten a lot more affordable. Good monitors have gotten a lot. Listen, I use Genelex, and I have a 5.1 Genelex system. And back in when I got these was like in 94, 95, something like that. And that system was around $6,000. Which by today's standards isn't really bad, but when you think about, well, that was in 94. That was a ton of money for a studio monitor system. But now you can get, I mean, what's a good, even the KRKs are for affordable monitors for the home studio, for the guys in their bedroom doing this stuff. I know you hate them.
No, I do not hate them. But they serve a purpose.
They serve a purpose, and they're affordable, and they actually are somewhat accurate for the home bedroom studio.
I mean, I put my carrier case in the boardroom because that's I can hear. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, my first set of monitors were Alesis, the monitor
ones. Those are great monitors.
Yeah, they were flat response.
I still have a pair. I've got a pair of Mackeys.
Yeah,
that I love, and I still have in one of our studios here. Yeah, you know. I have become kind of a barefoot snob, though.
Well, when you have a $40,000 pair of barefoots sitting in your studio, of course KRKs are going to be poo-pooed.
Oh, that was a mortgage back in my parents' house cost $56,000.
Yeah, I think my parents' first house was $24,000.
Oh, Lord. But okay, well, we're digressing here. We're digressing here. This is, I think, why people become gear snobs. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is they invest so much money in something that it's got to be the best. Because obviously, I spent all my money on it. Yeah. So there's nothing better than that, right?
I don't want to be an idiot.
Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do with this podcast. We're trying to say, look, at the end of the day, it's your product, right? It's your talent and it's your product. Everything else in between can vary. It's subjective how you approach it. And I think all we're trying to do with our 40-some plus years of experience is say we've lived through it.
Yeah.
You know, we lived through the MIDI side of when people hated
Don't make the mistakes that we've made.
Yeah, exactly. But suffice it to say, I think getting back to this plug-in versus the real...
Wait, can I say one more thing about monitors?
No.
Okay.
Okay, now just go ahead.
No matter what monitor you have, you've got to give it enough time to learn what those monitors do. Because if you know that you're using Alesis or KRKs or what, a less expensive monitor, and you know that the bass end isn't as robust as it should be, you've got to learn what you need to do to accentuate that. Because if it goes to broadcast or Spotify or wherever it's going, you've got to be able to understand that it's not going to sound like that. Yeah. So learn your monitors.
Well, I'll add one to that too. It's called reference mixing.
Yeah.
Right? So you want it to mix and sound like a certain thing, you have that on Spotify.
There you go.
Keep playing it through those monitors, match those frequencies, match those dynamics, and you're going to know your monitor because you know that already mastered hit that's already out there has already been done.
Yep.
And all you have to do is say, okay, this is my reference. Oh, I'm losing. It seems like I got a 300 hertz honk here that I don't like on the acoustic guitar. For instance, I better dial that down because it's not over here. So I think reference mixing is really, if you're not doing it, you better do it because your mixes won't sound as good as what you're referencing to if you don't match it.
Also, Ozone, and I've used this before, and we'll try to post it in whatever this plugin is in Ozone. But you can take, say, for example, if I'm doing an orchestral score in the box and I want it to sound like John Williams' Jurassic Park. I love the texture and the sonic feel of that. You can take a piece of that Jurassic part, say the part that you like the most, and you can insert it into this plugin, and then it will match all the EQs and everything that's from the way that they recorded Jurassic Park to fit into yours. And like I said, off the top of my head, I can't remember what that plugin is. It's in Ozone.
So you could do the same thing with bass? Like if
Yeah.
I wanted to match a bass
Exactly.
tone? Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I've used it, and it works. Isotope. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep.
That is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
I'm glad I'm not drilling too deep into plugins that way because I'd be spending all my time trying to figure that out.
Yeah, get a piece of hardware that does that, pal.
Yeah. Let me buy the Isotope hardware.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a crazy thing about technology, man. It's like if you want anything, you can do it. It comes down to talent.
Yeah.
I have to say, it really comes down to where are your ears? What are you developing? What are you learning? Are you willing to learn?
Yeah.
A lot of people get so biased again because they buy that one piece of gear, and everything has to be that piece of gear.
Yep.
It's a creme de la creme of everything, and I mean, I felt that way when I first bought the Shadow Hills. I'm like going, oh, this is the best
Nothing will ever
vocal monitor, and then all of a sudden, I'm going like, you're comparing to the LA2As and 1176s. Then I got my first CL1B, and it rocked my world.
Yeah.
Because I'd never heard anything so pure.
Well, that's when you told me you need to get the plug-in version, the UAD version of this, and I did, and it was like, yeah, you're right.
And it's like, I have passion projects, and I work with two specific artists that have incredible voices, and we're using U49 or U67 through the CL1B into an E1073, and it's not for everybody, but for those two particular artists, I can't find anything better, and I've tried everything. So.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit then, as far as microphones. I mean, how do you decide on what microphone to use on what artist, or guitar, or brass, or whatever? What's your philosophy, or how do you do that?
Well,
how do you do that voodoo that you do so well?
I listen to the instrument, I listen to the voice, I listen to where the frequency range is. There's one artist I work with has actually resonance. He's got a like a bass foundation melodically, but if you look at it, even melodyne under a meter, there are transients on top and bottom. It's almost like his voice is so wide. So.
Is that because he's more breathy, or
it's just the quality of his voice?
Okay,
he's just amazing. He's an amazing singer. His name's Jason Upton.
Okay.
Probably the best male singer I've ever heard. Period. And then Denise, my wife, is the other one who has sort of a Karen Carpenter kind of sound. So these are real pure voices. So I'll go straight to the Neumanns. Right. I started with a U47. Like microphone, the C7 from Wundermic. I started with that, and I found that it was a little too. The mid lows were just a little pumping, just a little more than I needed on either of them. Then contacted an engineer, now a friend of mine, Bill Schnee, and I was looking at his U49 that he was selling. And I asked him, I said, would you listen to this? I cut this on the C7 Wunder mic, and is it worth it for me to spend that much money on your microphone?
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I love about Bill Schnee. He says, no, she sounds great. So what he was saying was basically like, you don't have to buy my mic to get that sound, right?
Don't spend the cash.
Well,
pal.
that shows you a real pro to me, and a true and honest man full of integrity, you know?
Well, and let's face it, Bill Schnee doesn't have to sell that microphone to meet mortgage.
Well, the point, so what ended up happening was I said, okay, for the money that I would have spent for his microphone, I went ahead and bought a U49.
Yeah.
Okay, which was the reissue version. So it was $8,000 mic, as opposed to a $20,000 mic. And when I put that through a CL1B and then into the Neve 1073, and I tried it with the Porticos, and I also tried it with Millennia, and it became magic.
Yeah.
Because my philosophy is grab it right. Get everything you can out of that voice. Let the microphone love the voice.
I remember when you sent me a recording of when you had used that combination of Denise's track, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was amazing.
Yeah, it really was.
The quality was just amazing.
It captured every nuance. And what I've learned about singers is really good singers, when you put a really good mic on them, their nuance of how they attack the mic, how they sing around the mic, how they hear really well, which we have a live mix system, which is an incredible sounding headphone system. They really work the mic the way it should be worked. So mic technique is like everything. I mean, that was Sinatra's whole secret. He was such a great mic, technique guy. But how I use the mic, you were asking me about that, is it depends on the voice. A lot of times the key the song's in that voice, the dynamics of the song, and will depend on what microphone I will use.
Right.
A U67 is such an all-go-around mic. That is like the go-to mic. Right. You can capture just about anything and make it work with that.
Right.
And in some cases, I've actually used it as a preference on certain songs with Jason or Denise. But that's how I look at it. I do the same thing with drums. I mean, people say, well, you're using Earthworks. Aren't they a little sterile? I said, yeah, they are, but the tone of the drum is so, I don't want to color it.
Right.
I don't want to put a 421 on it, and I don't want a 414 on it. What I want is something that just captures it the way it is.
Yeah, because the 414 will definitely color it.
Yeah. Well, Al Schmidt, man, he was a 414 guy. He'd put on all his toms.
That's true.
So those are my inspiration. Guys like Bill Schnee and Al Schmidt. These guys are they're purists,
And coming from the virtual world, and I know a lot of people poo-poo it, but once again, I'm a Universal Audio guy, and I have a Townsend mic. It's a mic modeling. It's a stereo mic, dual capsule. And the reason I got it is because I have a composition studio, and I'm not a recording studio. I write music for a living. So for me to invest in $30,000 worth of mic locker microphones, that doesn't make sense. So I need something that when I do record something like acoustic guitar, I wanted kind of a stereo mic setup. And I did that, and I love it. I mean, I can pick different mic models and stuff, and I watched all the shootouts on YouTube as far as the real mic and stuff. And of course, it's not the same. A 49 is not gonna sound the same on the modeling microphone as it does a real microphone, but it was close. It was close, and that was enough to sell me to say, listen, if I have this at my console, I mean, my room is soundproof, so I can record directly at the console. If I have that mic there all the time, I don't have to go. When I'm writing, it's all about being in the flow, being in the groove. So I don't want to have to stop and go, I want to put acoustic guitar here and go into my booth and set it up and record. By that time, I have broken my creative flow. Yeah. I just want my mic that I can pull down and record the guitar and keep going. However, that being said, and you turned me on to this, and now when I record guitar, I have a TLM 104. 103. 103. I'm sorry. TLM 103 and this little Lewitt, I think, is a CL 103 or something like. I can't remember
Yeah.
what it's called, but it's a little pencil mic, and I've got them set. The 104 is at the below
103.
the sound hole on the body of the mic, and the Lewitt is on the 12th fret. Just that's normal setup, and I've got that on a mic stand, and they're permanent. So now when I record guitar, I just turn around and do that, and I get a great sound. So there is a difference between a really, really good mic like the
3.
the 103. You know what's funny? I always call it the TLS, and I have no idea where that comes from. I am the worst with names of pieces of gear and stuff. I can't even remember where my car keys are most of the time, let alone remember the name of all this stuff that we
happens.
have. Oh Lord! But anyway, there is a difference between a really good mic and a good mic. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
the Townsend, for what it does a great job. I have no problems with it. But when you put a Neumann out front, it's drastically different.
And you're also running it through a Neve Amec too.
Yeah,
right?
and it's running through a Neve Amec that I
Yeah.
can, control EQs and things like that. So, yeah, that helps a little bit too.
Well, at the end of the day, and again, I go back to the source. You've got a beautiful Taylor, 12 fret, like triple aught body.
Yeah.
It's a small parlor guitar, and it records incredibly well.
Yeah, it does.
And it's like, there's two guitars that are my go-to. One is a triple aught Martin, and then the other one is a larger body, but it's a Greven. It's a maple, and it has a great attack, but it has like a shorter ring on the back end, but it doesn't have that mid honk that a lot of dreadnoughts have
Right.
that you have to dial out.
Yep.
So yeah, to me it's the source, right? If you've got a good source, you can actually sacrifice a little bit on the microphone.
Yeah.
If you've got a terrible source, it doesn't matter if you've got the most expensive mic in the world.
Yeah.
It won't sound great,
Well, and let me say this for all the virtual guys out there and gals, that I know Stephen Slate makes a modeling microphone, and I know a lot of people, abide by that microphone. The one thing I didn't like about the Slate was that it wasn't a true stereo mic. It's just a single capsule. The Townsend, I can record in stereo. The other thing I like about it too with the software is that I can record, well, if I'm recording guitar or a vocal or whatever, later on if I decide, you know what, I should have used, a 49, or I should have done a 63 instead. I can change that microphone midstream. So if I get in a final mix and the vocal or the guitar just not doing, I can change that mic model and find a model that really works with that mix. Because, when you're initially doing something, you really don't know how it's going to fit in the mix.
I haven't dug into the house, and once you told me about yours, I went out and bought one. And I do know that it's a great mic because, Universal Audio bought them out.
Yeah.
Right? And so, and they're basically, the price went up when Universal Audio bought them out. I do remember one time I decided, let me see what the grand piano sounds like with this thing, just as a stereo mic. And I remember actually going, I'm using that. That sounds great.
Yeah.
So
There's nothing wrong with that mic.
But again, that piano sounds incredible, like by itself. So it still comes down to that, right?
But and my point is for the virtual world, if you don't have the room or the money, or you just don't want to invest in, $20,000 worth of microphones, which is very easy to do. That will get you 3. This is a great alternative. So you'll have a mic locker and one little microphone. So I recommend it. I think it's a good.
I think
mic.
the Slate stuff's great too.
Yeah. Like I said, I
worked with
loved it, but it wasn't a stereo mic, and I
Yeah.
wanted a stereo mic.
Yeah, I
'Cause I
lost
like
my
guitar
stereo
and
cable
stereo.
one time on the Townsend. It's totally unusable. It's like,
Oops.
we were moving stuff around, and I think John finally found it somewhere.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm going like, wow, this thing's like totally useless without that stereo cable.
There you go.
And because there's something else going on in there besides just a 3-pin. It's
that's
triggering that microphone.
Yeah, it's a 5-pin.
But anyway, so I think we've covered a lot of stuff. We have a lot of opinions on things.
And we'd like to hear your opinion, so comment below.
Yeah. Hopefully, we're giving you some positive information that can help you, and not, poo-poo anything that you're doing or what. But I think the thing I like to say is, it's all about the passion of learning what the technology can do, whether it's the hardware or the software. It's like, take what you've got in front of you and make it the best you possibly can.
Right.
Don't always be wanting something else, because you're going to spend your whole life doing that.
Yeah.
You're going to always be chasing things.
There
And
you go.
you know what? In today's technology, you can create beautiful music with the most basic things. And at the end of the day, make your music matter.
Yeah.
Make your music have heart.
Yep.
Whether you produce it virtually or you produce it full analog and whatever, and it still comes down to what is the heart feeling of that music.
It's the end result.
Yeah. What is it? What's the point of that music?
Yeah.
And just make it work. So
I think the biggest thing out of everything is that in what we do, there really aren't any rules.
yeah, you're absolutely right.
None.
You're absolutely
It's what
right.
works for you and the final product and how it sounds and if it moves people.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yes.
We love to talk and ramble.
Yep.
So
I'm good at
thanks
that.
for listening.
All right. Peace.